Well, last weekend was pretty good for pretty much everybody, except for you Eagles and Packers fans, in which I'm laughing in your face. Hello, guys, and welcome to the Cowboy and the Hawks Nest podcast. This is going to be episode 7. I will be recapping the Seattle Seahawks and the Dallas Cowboys 2020 NFL Draft. Let's start with the Dallas Cowboys. I'm just going to say it flat out right now. I think the Dallas Cowboys had the best draft of 2020. To reiterate a point from Skip Bayless on Fox's Undisputed, every single pick that the Cowboys had were taken as steals. Steals in this draft. Let's start with the first round pick for the Dallas Cowboys, which makes all of the Eagle fans salty as fuck, and it makes me salivate. With the 17th pick in the 2020 NFL Draft, the Dallas Cowboys select C.D. Lamb, wide receiver, Oklahoma. Man, I was so happy when we drafted C.D. Lamb. I was hesitant because I thought we were going to take Xavier McKinney, the safety from Alabama. But C.D. Lamb, probably the best wide receiver in this year's draft. Everyone can say Henry Ruggs all they want, or Jerry Jeudy, but C.D. Lamb is... I've watched so many of his highlights. He is so physically strong. His legs don't stop churning. He fights for every yard. And the best part, he has the talent to pull some plays right out of his ass. 6'2", 198 pounds, ran a 4.5 at the combine. He has everything that you want from a wide receiver. And just to show how much pressure or confidence either C.D. Lamb has or is on him, he's been given the number 88. That's right. The number for Drew Pearson, Michael the Playmaker Irvin, and Dez Bryant. All of the best wide receivers that the Cowboys have had wear the number 88. So either we're about to see magical things happen here, or... No, I'm not even going to let that be in the atmosphere. We're going to see fantastic things from this young man. He's a steal because he was a projected top 10 pick, and he falls to Dallas at 17. And all the Philadelphia Eagle fans are like, "Yes, he's falling. We're going to get him. Or we should trade up with Atlanta to get him." The trade-up didn't happen, and the Falcons reached in probably the biggest fashion for a cornerback who got absolutely toasted in the national championship game in A.J. Terrell from Clemson. I don't know how they didn't get a deal done. Anyway, that's the first round. We got 7 more rounds and 6 more picks to go through. Second round. the Dallas Cowboys select Trayvon Diggs, cornerback, Alabama. This dude was a monster all year. The only bad game that he had was LSU, and absolutely everybody struggled against LSU. Last year alone, he had 3 interceptions, 20 solo tackles, which means he's not the Deion Sanders kind who shies away from tackles. He will go and tackle as a corner in open space. Which brings me to his play style. Trayvon Diggs is a press man-to-man corner. We haven't had a press man-to-man corner this good probably since Morris Claiborne, at least for however long I have been watching Dallas Cowboys football and can remember. And even then, Morris Claiborne was a bust. Don't talk to me about Byron Jones. He's not a press corner. He's a zone corner, who in his own right was still really, really good. A really, really good corner. And sorry to have him leave. But I hope he has a good career in Miami. Anyway, Trayvon Diggs was supposed to go like 27th, like late first round. And we got him with the 19th pick midway through the second. How does he fall to second, being that great of a player in college? Third round, 18th pick in the third round. We select Neville Gallimore, defensive tackle, Oklahoma. By ESPN standards, he's ranked 6th at his position from college. 6th to the likes of Javon Kinlaw, Derek Brown, Ross Blaylock, Raekwon Davis, Justin Matabuike, and he falls to Dallas at the 19th pick in the third round. I'm astounded. We just got depth at the defensive tackle position where we just signed Gerald McCoy and Don Terry Poe. And we still have DeMarcus Lawrence on the edge. Going back to more defense, with the first 4th round pick that Dallas has, they got Reggie Robinson II. Now, I haven't looked up his stats or highlights yet, but from what I have heard, Reggie Robinson was supposed to go in the first part of the 3rd round, and we got him in the midway through the 4th round. And then the second pick that we get in the 4th round, we trade up to get Tyler Biadasz, the center from Wisconsin. You know who also was from Wisconsin, who was a first-round pick, who just retired from the Dallas Cowboys? Oh, that's right. Travis Frederick. There have been so many Wisconsin linemen taken in drafts recently. So much so that Wisconsin is being held as the best place to get offensive linemen from now. That and Notre Dame. Notre Dame is pretty good too. Biadasz was supposed to go in the 2nd round. He's the 3rd best center in the draft, behind Cesar Ruiz, who was taken in the 1st round by the New Orleans Saints, and Matt Hennessy from Temple, who was taken in the 3rd round. So a 3rd best center, the 3rd best center in the game, drops to Dallas at the end of the fourth round, like the very last pick in the fourth round. Our offensive line got so much better now. He'll have a year to sit behind Joe Looney, and then once he's learned enough, we're gonna move Looney to left guard, which is where we've had him for a while now, and say, sorry, we just missed out on Connor Williams. I think we've missed on that pick. I think that ship has sailed now. I think we need to cut our losses with Connor Williams. And we'll move Looney to left guard after a year, maybe two, and we'll have Bjadic as our starting center. 5th round pick, Bradley Anae, Utah. 12th best at his outside, at his edge rusher position by ESPN. 2-time all Pac-12 team. He should have been drafted in the 4th round, near the top of the 4th round. 4.93 40 time at the combine. This man is fast, has a no-stop motor, strong hands. He's going to be fantastic. The only pick that I have an inkling of problem with, and even then, he's good for the position, for where we took him and what he will be doing. But in the 7th round, Dallas selected Ben DiNucci, quarterback from James Madison. He's a good pickup for backup quarterback, which I would love to have because Dak Prescott is about to be the $100+ million man. And if he goes down, we need someone to come in and fill for him. But my problem is who was still left on the board at the time that the pick went down. And you have 2 Washington prospects that would have been great depth for the team. And one of them could have been, if he was given the chance to fight for the job, I think he could have been starter. 2 products out of UW. Trey Adams, offensive tackle, and the prospect that I really, really wanted, Hunter Bryant, tight end from UW. Because having lost Jason Witten, old man Witten, Blake Jarwin being good, but we don't have depth at the position, at least in my eyes. I think we may have Geoff Swaim, I think his name is. But if we had Hunter Bryant to compete for the job, I think he would have been top 2 tight ends for Dallas. At least top 2, if not the top tight end. He was the 2nd best available behind Tyler Adams since the beginning of the 7th round. I think it was even these 2 were probably part of the best 5 available in the 6th round. Instead, they go into the undrafted free agent category. Overall, with where Dallas picked up their players, Dallas deserves an A+ for who they drafted and where, and who they beat out. Suck it, Eagles. And now to Seattle's draft. Seattle's draft, I think, went all right. But again, they do the things that just leave me staggered and lost for words. Not only in the draft, but two cuts right after the draft. Let's start with the cuts first. They cut DJ Fluker and Justin Britt. Why? Why would you cut two of your better offensive linemen? One of them who was just getting old, the other one injured previously, and you never replaced them. Maybe Justin Britt, you can make a case for already replacing Britt with Ethan Posick, who, not gonna lie, he was a really good pick 2 years ago. But in the situation we're in here with the coronavirus and not being able to meet with teams or have practices right now, even though we wouldn't be having practices right now because it would be non-mandatory workouts and most everyone would not be there except for the rookies. We're not expected to have practices until August. And even then, we're going to be stretching into the preseason already, so no one has the concepts of what they're doing. Why wouldn't you keep the offensive line group relatively together? Because Dwayne Brown is still coming back and is still going to be your left tackle. You signed Iupati to a deal, and so he's staying. So why wouldn't you keep your center and guard for at least the sake of practicing until it comes to the preseason when it comes time for cuts? And then you can cut DJ Fluker and Justin Britt. And the rookie in the third round that Seattle just drafted, Damian Lewis from LSU, give him a chance to work for it against the better offensive lineman that we know of right now in DJ Fluker. Because we know Joey Hunt is not the answer. He got steamrolled pretty much every single Sunday, at least twice, by nose tackles or interior linemen. He's too small and not strong enough through the power of observation. Whereas Britt, while injured a lot of the time, he could still play the position at a decent level. Britt is the most upsetting because you know you don't have a good center to start because you know Joey Hunt isn't the answer. Not only that, you know offensive line is probably your weakest spot besides your defensive line, since you're not getting Clowney, as made evident by Jaron Reed tweeting out that he has his old number 90 back again, which was Clowney's number previously. And why would Seattle even think that message getting out is okay from Jaron Reed? Unless they're signaling you're not going to get Clowney back, which is probably the most obvious answer. But if that's the case, why not just fully come out and say, we're not going to be re-signing Clowney. We're not going to be in the bidding war for Clowney. Which is interesting because I don't know why he hasn't made a decision yet. A very interesting situation with Clowney. And now into the draft. With the first round pick, Seattle didn't trade back for the first time since 2011 to get more picks, but instead they drafted a linebacker, an outside linebacker, which, to be fair, it's a good pickup, but it wouldn't have been the pickup that I would have gone for because of the two glaring weaknesses being the offensive line and the defensive line. Now, with who was available for edge rusher, there was some players better at need that were available. Specifically, AJ Espinoza, the third best defensive end rank by ESPN, was available. And he wasn't taken until the second round. So what they did, and what Seattle did, was they drafted Jordan Brooks out of Texas Tech. And to be fair, in coverage, the linebackers for Seattle were toasted. Like absolutely, like charcoal black this past year in coverage. But that's mainly a product of the defensive line not being adequate enough to get to the quarterback. Because it doesn't matter who's in the secondary or the linebacking core, unless your name is Deion Sanders. No one can keep coverage locked up for 6 seconds. And you're asking a linebacker to do it for 4. When a linebacker can give you max 2 seconds if he's going up against wide receivers. In which, while being the best linebacker in the league, Bobby Wagner got torched in coverage. So did KJ Wright, and so did Michael Kendricks, who was the third starting linebacker. And they do so much of the 4-3 defense, which, granted, I like. I like that. But there was a point brought up to me recently that 4-3 is good when you have an inhuman safety in the back, like Earl Thomas was. But now you don't have that great of a safety, center fielder safety out there. No disrespect to Quandre Diggs or Bradley McDougall, but I've warmed up to the Jordan Brooks pick. The second round pick for Seattle, they draft one of their needs in Darrell Taylor, defensive end from Tennessee. This man's a hard worker, and I'm not trashing on this pick, but AJ Espinoza should have been drafted here instead of Darrell Taylor. Because 5 picks later, Espinoza goes to the Bills. Now, I know Seattle fans will probably come out of the woodwork saying, "Oh, you're not a real Seattle fan," which Seattle is my second favorite team because I live here. But Seattle fans will nonetheless come out and say, "Oh, you gotta trust Pete Carroll and John Schneider," which I should. I should trust them because they do have history of drafting insane players in the later rounds, i.e. Wilson, Sherman, Thomas, Chancellor, Wagner, all of the super good players that were on the Legion of Boom were late round picks. But either I can't see what they're seeing, which is most likely the case, or they're off their rocker. And it's definitely not that they're off their rocker. So I just can't see from my position why drafting Darrell Taylor from Tennessee would be a better player than drafting AJ Espinoza from Iowa. I guess it must be a combination of talent and character for Darrell Taylor, because I haven't seen into into their character. I would love to see interviews. The interviews that each team has with their players, especially Seattle. I'd love to see those interviews at the combine. I'd be so interested to see what they're asking and before they draft them to figure out how Pete Carroll and John Schneider think. Because obviously they're not going for at least what ESPN or anyone else ranks as their best. But man, I guess I just don't understand. Already discussed Damon Lewis out of LSU, an offensive guard. Good for them. They actually drafted an offensive lineman with a top 3 round pick. It's insane. Wow, we didn't wait until the 5th or 6th round to draft an offensive lineman. 4th round picks, we have Cody Parkinson, the tight end out of Stanford, and DJ Dallas, a running back out of Miami. I guess that since we lost J.D. McKissick and some other running backs, to have the running back carousel filled in with another running back, even though we're still keeping Chris Carson and Rashad Penny. I guess Chris Carson is going into a contract year, so we'll have someone on the backup if we don't want to sign him. But man, I think we got to keep Chris Carson and Penny, or maybe not Penny. Maybe not Penny. But Chris Carson we should think of keeping. And DJ Dallas, if I'm not mistaken, I believe we lost one of our key wide receivers. I think it was Jaron Brown. But at least we still have Doug Baldwin, and we still have Tyler Lockett. One of them, I believe it was Dougie Doug, that didn't pass a physical. But I'm sure he's going to pass the physical now, though. 5th round, another defensive end selection, Alton Robinson out of Syracuse. Super fast. And he can be taught more moves that will help him with his pass rush, because there's nothing more that we like better than developing defensive ends. And we also have Freddie Swain. I think he's definitely going to start on special teams for Seattle. He will probably be the starter for the special teams unit in terms of returning. I think Homer is going to be put back into his gunner position. And finally, Steven Sullivan, tight end, LSU. Again, a super fast player. Who looks like he's going to be just a... it looks like he's just going to be a receiving threat at tight end. So overall, I'd give Seattle's draft grade a B-, because they did get a lot of defensive. They got some defensive draft picks in there, but they also addressed tight end, which was lacking because of injury, and the linebacking core. I would have wished that they went and drafted some secondary help, but I guess it'll be fine. And now some of the juicy stories which made the NFL draft terrible for 2 teams in particular. Specifically, the Green Bay Packers taking Jordan Love with the first round pick. And not only getting the first round pick, trading up to get him. When they have probably the best, if not the second best, quarterback ever to play the game in terms of arm strength and accuracy and just being an all-out player in Aaron Rodgers. Instead of getting him help, the Packers went 13-3 and made it to the NFC Championship game. And that was a bad year for Aaron Rodgers. A bad year is going 13-3 for a little bit over 4,000 yards passing with 6 interceptions. With 4 interceptions and 26 touchdowns. And a 95.4 QBR rating. Sorry, not QBR. No, yeah, QBR rating. And you choose to get a quarterback with the first round. And not only that, with the second round pick, you get a running back. This is the one that that astounds me equally to drafting a quarterback when you have Aaron Rodgers. Guess who you had at running back who had a fantastic breakout year? You had Aaron Jones. Granted, this is just his first year. There's of being the starter and being a breakout running back. But you draft another one? Instead of getting, I don't know, some receiving help? Literally, there were no wide receivers taken by the Green Bay Packers this year. And the only receiving threat that they drafted was a tight end. Now, granted, they did lose Jimmy Graham. But ESPN doesn't even have this guy ranked. They don't have Josiah DeGuara ranked. That says it all. The Packers are probably that tells Aaron Rodgers only a couple of things. That the Packers don't give a damn about Aaron Rodgers. They're fed up with him. And that he should request either a trade or he should hold out. Because they've gotten him no help in the wide receiving core. They've gotten him, to be fair, they did draft him a couple of linemen, but they're not going to be as good as Brian Bulaga was on the tackle. His left tackle for years. They do still have Bakhtiari on the other side, though. So that side will be shored up. But they're rookies. The ownership is... Not ownership, because the Packers are ran publicly. But the president and the GM are too cheap. They're so cheap that they don't get Aaron Rodgers help. Tell me in what world that makes sense. And moving on. To the other salty fan base because of who they drafted. Them Eagles. They drafted... Well, first of all, in the first round, Eagles fans are salty because Dallas drafted CeeDee Lamb, who the Eagles fans were fantasizing about. They were making pictures of CeeDee Lamb already edited in Eagles jerseys wearing the number 2. And they don't trade up to get him. The number one position that they are lacking going into the draft is wide receiver because everyone was injured. So you knew whoever it was going to be was going to be a wide receiver. So why not trade up to get that wide receiver that you coveted? The perfect trade bait was the Falcons. The Falcons were looking for a cornerback. Now, granted, there wasn't too much depth in cornerbacks at the time, but the cornerback that they were getting, that the Atlanta Falcons took, they could have gotten him at the Eagles pick. They could have gotten more draft capital and still got the player that they wanted. And the Eagles couldn't pull off a trade with the Falcons to get ahead of Dallas, who with the next pick being CeeDee Lamb. It's payback because Dallas wanted to draft Dallas Goedert in the previous draft in the second round. This is 100% just revenge and getting the best player on the board at the time, which CeeDee Lamb was in Dallas. Anyway, they didn't get CeeDee Lamb. There are a whole bunch. This entire draft class is deep in wide receivers. So they're not getting a bad deal with any of the wide receivers. But they choose Jalen Reagor over the likes of Justin Jefferson, Brandon Ayuk, T. Higgins, Michael Pittman Jr., Laviska Shenault, it doesn't make sense to me. Because Dallas lost Randall Cobb, I was wanting them to draft a wide receiver because I thought safety was not going to be too coveted. So what I was hoping for was Justin Jefferson to come to Dallas. Because Jefferson was outstanding versus both Alabama and Oklahoma. Granted, Oklahoma had pretty much no defense in the secondary, so he was torching everyone with getting not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4. If I'm not mistaken, 5 touchdowns. I could be wrong. It's either 4 or 5 touchdowns in a bowl game, and not only a bowl game, the Sugar Bowl. The Sugar Bowl. One of the top 5 bowl games. And the Eagles go with Jalen Reagor. And guess who picks up Justin Jefferson right after them? The Minnesota Vikings, who just lost out on Stephon Diggs because they traded him. And now to the second round, the more triggering pick for the Eagles. With the 53rd pick in the NFL draft, the Philadelphia Eagles select Jalen Hurts. That's right, the quarterback out of Oklahoma. And they have Carson Wentz already. And a second-round pick isn't draft capital that you use on a backup quarterback. So either they're going to use him as a gadget player, which makes no sense to me, because the Eagles have already said that they're not going to use him as a gadget player. So if they're not going to use Jalen Hurts as a gadget player, And the second round is too high to draft a backup quarterback. That means at some point in time, Carson Wentz is going to get replaced. At least that's what's happening in the minds of Howie Roseman. And they just gave Carson Wentz a contract. He just finished his first year under his lucrative contract where he's getting overpaid to get injured and not perform in the playoffs. This makes no sense. Unless it is simply getting a backup quarterback, in which this was just a stupid decision. You could have gotten him later. Because after Jalen Hurts, the next quarterback to be drafted is Jacob Eason to the Indianapolis Colts in the 4th round. That's one whole round in between quarterback selections. You could have gotten him in the 3rd round. That's insane. You could have gotten a second wide receiver, like Denzel Mims out of Baylor. Or because your entire defensive line just left, you could have gotten AJ Epinesa, who was picked right after you. Or you could sure up, I don't know, you already have Miles Sanders, who's pretty good. But you could have picked safety and gone Jeremy Chin. Or get a cornerback and turn him safety. Or something, because you lost your best player in Malcolm Jennings. And I feel like I'm about to get cancer talking about the Eagles. So I'm done. And this has been your boy Aaron from the Cowboy and the Hawks Nest podcast. Always remember, go Hawks. How about them Cowboys? And born in 1974, Sounders. And now we win like never before, Sounders. We love our boys in the famous green, the greatest team that you've ever seen, the Seattle Sounders, born in 74. Have a nice day, bitches. Him